Ken, thank you. A man is dead after North Las Vegas police shot and killed him late last night. The department says their officers responded to a home near Bruce and Carey about a man with a gun involved in an argument. He left that scene after officers arrived, but then dispatchers got a call from another home about the same man with a gun in an apartment. Eventually, officers made contact with the man. He took his gun and pointed it at police. The three officers then shot him. He was taken to UMC where he died. The investigation is ongoing. And last night's officer-involved shooting was the third one to take place in the Valley in the span of the final 5 days of 2023. Late Thursday night, Metro officers found a reported stolen vehicle in a drive-through lane of a fast food restaurant near Charleston and MLK. As they confronted the driver, another man ran through the passenger side. Police say as he ran from officers, they caught up to him. He pointed a gun at them, which then led to them shooting and killing him. 2 officers have been placed on routine paid leave. And last Wednesday morning, officers and troopers shot and killed a man involved in a string of violent crimes across the Southwest Valley. Police say 36-year-old Justin Davidson shot and killed his mother near a wash before he stole a Metro car and carjacked 3 more drivers. Davidson shot and killed the 3rd driver he carjacked. Metro Police and Nevada State troopers fired 53 shots at Davidson. He was killed on the scene.